Have you ever reached out to an old friend only to find your calls go unanswered? Or noticed that family gatherings seem to happen without your knowledge until after the fact? Perhaps you felt that strange sensation of becoming slowly invisible in spaces where you once felt essential, where your opinions were sought after, your presence celebrated. This gradual social withdrawal that others exhibit isn't merely your imagination. It's a reality that many of us face as we age. The severing of social connections in our later years isn't just emotionally devastating. It poses genuine risks to our health and longevity. Studies show that social isolation increases mortality risk by nearly 30%, making it more dangerous than obesity and as harmful as smoking 15 cigarettes daily. I'm Vernon, and today, I'll share insights into why people may be creating distance, and more importantly, 5 profound ways to rebuild those precious connections that sustain not just our social lives, but our very will to thrive. The ancient Greek philosopher Aristotle recognized something fundamental about human nature when he observed that man is by nature a social animal. This wisdom, penned over 2 millennia ago, carries even deeper resonance in our later years. Our need for meaningful connection doesn't diminish with age, if anything. It becomes more essential to our well-being. Yet modern research reveals a troubling paradox. A comprehensive study from the University of California found that while social engagement becomes increasingly vital for cognitive health and emotional well-being as we age, nearly 43% of adults over 60 report experiencing regular feelings of loneliness and social disconnection. Today, I'll guide you through understanding both why this disconnection occurs and how to rebuild these vital bonds across different stages of later life. The 5 approaches I'll share combine timeless wisdom with practical, actionable steps that honor the rich life experience you bring to relationships. Pay particular attention to the approach number 3. It contains an insight that many find completely transforms how they view their role in relationships with younger generations. Before we dive into the 5 rebuilding strategies, let's pause for a moment. Recognizing that relationships have changed isn't admitting defeat, it's an act of bravery. As the philosopher Heraclitus wisely noted, "No man ever steps in the same river twice, for it's not the same river, and he's not the same man." Our relationships, like rivers, are constantly changing, and our task is to learn to navigate these new waters with renewed wisdom. If you find these insights helpful, please take a moment to subscribe and share this video. It helps others find their way back to meaningful connection too. Now, let's begin with the first path to reconnection, starting with the conversations that shape our bonds. When social connections begin to fray, our conversation patterns often hold the key to repair. The quality of our exchanges can either draw others closer or push them further away. Consider what the philosopher Zeno observed. "We have 2 ears and 1 mouth, so we should listen twice as much as we speak." This wisdom takes on special significance in our later years, when we have accumulated decades of experiences we're eager to share. Elizabeth, 74, noticed that her adult children's visits had grown shorter and less frequent. After reflection, she realized she had become a broadcaster rather than a conversationalist. She was so focused on sharing her thoughts that she rarely asked about theirs. This challenge manifests differently across backgrounds. James, a 70-year-old retired factory worker, struggled with feeling out of step with conversations about technology and current events. He felt he had nothing valuable to contribute, so he'd retreat to talking about the past, which was comfortable for him but boring for others. For those with cognitive challenges, simpler approaches can be effective. Maria, 82, who experiences mild memory issues, keeps a small notebook with conversation prompts and family updates to reference during visits. Research from the Harvard Study of Adult Development revealed that the quality of our relationships is the strongest predictor of our happiness and health, hinging largely on mutual engagement and interest. To reimagine your conversational presence, consider these practices. First, embrace the 3-to-1 rule during interactions. For every 3 questions you ask others about their lives, share 1 observation of your own. This shifts conversations from monologue to dialogue. Second, practice active curiosity. Listen with the genuine intent to understand. When someone shares something, respond with thoughtful questions rather than pivoting to your own similar story. Third, balance life wisdom with current engagement. While our experiences offer valuable perspective, conversations that consistently drift to the past can unintentionally send the message that we're not engaged with the present. As Confucius reminded us, if you are the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. Humility invites connection. Quick question for you. When was the last time you felt truly listened to? Drop a listen in the comments if you've ever longed for deeper conversations. The wisdom of Marcus Aurelius offers guidance. Waste no more time arguing about what a good person should be. Be one. Similarly, waste no more time lamenting lost connections by the one who rebuilds them. The second pathway requires us to release passive waiting and embrace proactive invitation. As we age, we often begin expecting others to initiate contact, perhaps feeling that we've earned the right to be sought out. Harold, after retiring at 65, found himself increasingly isolated. He kept thinking, surely someone will call. It took him a year to realize that if he wanted a connection, he needed to create it himself. This proactive approach must be adapted to different life circumstances. Rosa, an 84-year-old widow living on a fixed income in a subsidized apartment, couldn't host gatherings in her small space. She created connections through hallway coffee chats with neighbors and organizing free community events in her building's common room. For those with health challenges, initiation takes different forms. Walter, 77, who is homebound due to COPD, maintains connections by coordinating a virtual chess club and sending handwritten letters to friends with specific questions about their lives. Research from the University of Michigan found that adults who proactively initiate social contact experience significantly less loneliness than those who wait for others to reach out. Initiating with intentionality means creating specific, purposeful invitations rather than vague suggestions. Consider the difference between "we should get together sometime" and "I'm hosting a small dinner next Thursday at 6 o'clock. I'd love for you to join us." For caregivers of older adults, supporting intentional connection is vital. Carlos, who cares for his 90-year-old mother with dementia, helps her maintain dignity by arranging teaching sessions where she demonstrates traditional cooking techniques to younger family members. The key is creating interactions with clear purpose, whether it's learning together, solving a problem, or simply sharing beauty. Finding activities that align with your authentic interests creates connections with genuine substance. My colleague Dr. James Anderson, at 76, initially resisted digital communication. He thought text messages and video calls were poor substitutes for real interaction. But when his grandchildren moved across the country, he had a choice: adapt to their communication methods or lose touch entirely. The third pathway to rebuilding connections involves reconsidering our relationship with technology. This is also something I want you to pay close attention to, so you can change your perspective in old age. For many in our generation, digital tools can seem like barriers to real connection rather than facilitators of it. Yet, when approached with wisdom, technology can serve as a powerful bridge to meaningful engagement. The philosopher Socrates, ironically, worried that the new technology of writing would destroy memory and wisdom. Today, similar concerns about digital technology abound. However, as Aristotle taught, virtue lies in the middle path, neither rejecting technology entirely nor embracing it uncritically. The digital divide affects older adults differently based on factors like education, income, and prior exposure to technology. Maria, a 72-year-old immigrant who never completed high school, was intimidated by smartphones until her local community center offered a Digital Buddies program pairing seniors with high school volunteers. Her young teacher was so patient. Now she uses WhatsApp to see her grandchildren in Mexico every week. It has changed her life. Research from Stanford Center on Longevity shows that older adults who use digital communication tools to supplement, not replace, in-person interactions, report higher levels of social satisfaction and lower rates of depression. The key word is supplement. Technology works best when it enhances rather than substitutes for in-person connection. This was precisely what James discovered. By learning to text and use video calls, he maintained regular contact with his grandchildren. These digital touchpoints actually deepened their in-person visits. For those who feel intimidated by technology, remember that mastery isn't required, only functional comfort with a few specific tools. Most communities offer free technology classes specifically designed for seniors, often taught at a pace that builds confidence rather than creating frustration. Consider these technology connection strategies. First, identify communication channels favored by your loved ones. Whether it's texting, video calls, or social media, meeting them on their preferred platforms shows you value the relationship enough to adapt. Second, use technology to organize in-person gatherings. Apps and group messages can simplify planning, making digital interaction a bridge to face-to-face connection. Third, explore shared virtual activities like online games or virtual book clubs that create meaningful interaction despite physical distance. Different cultures embrace technology and aging uniquely. Japan supports digital literacy for seniors through government programs, while in longevity hotspots like Okinawa and Sardinia, technology increasingly maintains the social bonds that contribute to their remarkable lifespans. What technology tool or platform initially intimidated you, but ended up enhancing your connections with loved ones? Or, if you're still hesitant about digital communication, what specific connection would you most like to strengthen through technology? Share your technology success story or challenge in the comments below. As we age, we must thoughtfully consider what we bring to relationships rather than focusing solely on what we receive. The fourth pathway to rebuilding connections addresses a delicate truth. Lasting relationships require mutual benefit. The ancient principle of reciprocity appears across philosophical traditions. Confucius articulated it as, "What you do not wish for yourself, do not do to others." In positive terms, this suggests offering others the engagement and value we ourselves desire. My friend Thomas, a retired architect of 70, noticed his social circle shrinking after retirement. After reflection, he realized he had lost more than a job. He had lost his framework for contributing value to others. When he was working, people sought him out for his expertise and connections. Once retired, he had to discover new ways to be valuable in relationships. In many non-Western cultures, the elder's role in reciprocal relationships is more clearly defined. In many East Asian societies influenced by Confucian values, elders are respected for their wisdom and historical knowledge, while they continue contributing to family life through childcare and domestic support. In Native American traditions, elders are valued knowledge keepers with specific cultural responsibilities. These models suggest alternative ways of maintaining reciprocity beyond Western notions of productivity. Thomas's insight reflects what sociologists call exchange theory, the observation that humans naturally gravitate toward balanced relationships where both parties contribute and receive value, whether emotional, intellectual, or practical. This doesn't mean relationships should be transactional. Rather, it recognizes that sustainable connections include mutual giving and receiving. The specific forms of value we exchange may change with age, but the principle of reciprocity remains. Consider these approaches to cultivating reciprocity. Identify your current strengths, resources, and capacities, whether it's time for listening, life wisdom for guidance, practical skills, or simply the gift of undivided attention, and look for opportunities to offer these where they're needed. Recognize that vulnerability and authentic sharing are themselves valuable gifts in relationships. As the philosopher Brené Brown observes, vulnerability is the birthplace of connection. Create what sociologists call generative exchanges, where your contribution helps others grow or develop in some way, whether through mentoring, teaching, or simply asking questions that prompt insight. For caregivers supporting older family members, finding ways to maintain reciprocity is essential for the dignity of the care recipient. Samantha, who cares for her 91-year-old father, ensures he can still give back by asking his advice on family decisions and having him tell bedtime stories to her children via video call. These small contributions keep him connected to his identity as someone who contributes, not just receives. What unique wisdom, skill, or quality do you possess that others might genuinely value, but that you haven't actively shared? How could you transform this personal strength into a way of contributing to others' lives, regardless of your physical limitations or circumstances? Your insights could inspire others facing similar challenges. Unacknowledged hurts and accumulated resentments often create invisible barriers to renewed connection. The fifth and perhaps most profound pathway to rebuilding connections requires the difficult inner work of forgiveness, both of others and ourselves. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus offered this insight: make the best use of what is in your power, and take the rest as it happens. In relationships, we can't control others' actions toward us, but we can control our response, including our willingness to forgive and move forward. My friend Margaret harbored deep hurt when her daughter missed her 70th birthday celebration due to a work commitment. She carried that resentment for months. Every interaction was colored by it, though she never mentioned it directly. Eventually, she realized she was poisoning their relationship by holding on to this hurt. When Margaret finally expressed her feelings and worked toward forgiveness, their relationship began to heal. She had to acknowledge her pain without making her responsible for her happiness. Once she truly forgave her, she could see how much pressure she'd been putting on their relationship. This forgiveness work may look different across cultural backgrounds. In collectivist cultures, like those found in many Asian, African, and Latin American communities, forgiveness is often framed as restoring harmony to the group rather than as an individual psychological process. Research from the Stanford Forgiveness Project demonstrates that practicing forgiveness reduces stress hormones, lowers blood pressure, and improves immune function. Beyond these physical benefits, forgiveness creates psychological space for relationships to be renewed rather than abandoned. Consider these approaches to practicing forgiveness. First, acknowledge hurts directly rather than allowing them to smolder beneath the surface of relationships. Unexpressed resentments often emerge as passive aggression or emotional withdrawal that others can sense but can't address. Second, distinguish between forgiveness and reconciliation. Forgiveness is an internal process of releasing resentment. Reconciliation is the external rebuilding of relationship. The former is always possible. The latter depends on mutual willingness. Third, practice self-forgiveness for ways you may have contributed to relationship challenges. Self-compassion creates the emotional foundation for extending compassion to others. The psychiatrist and Holocaust survivor Viktor Frankl observed, "Between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response." Forgiveness represents a choice to respond to hurt with an openness to healing rather than withdrawal or retaliation. We've explored 5 powerful paths to rebuilding connection. Reimagine conversation. Initiate with purpose. Embrace technology wisely. Cultivate reciprocity. Practice forgiveness. Remember, you don't step into the same river twice. The relationships you rebuild in this chapter won't mirror the past. They'll be richer, wiser, more intentional. Now, I invite you to choose one small step today toward rebuilding a meaningful connection. Share your commitment in the comments below. You might just inspire someone else's journey too. If you found today's journey valuable, please subscribe, share, and join our community of seniors choosing connection over isolation. Thank you for spending this time with me. I'll see you in our next video.